The hour is heavy and the screen glows like an open wound, a window you shouldn't look through but can't turn away from. Outside, the city is silent, the kind of silence that makes every distant siren sound like it's coming from inside your own apartment. You scroll, and there they are again, soldiers with haunted eyes, little girls gripping threadbare toys, mothers folding in on themselves as if their spines gave out under truths no one should have to carry. The thumbnails are lined up like headstones, uniform, unblinking, each one promising a secret that feels too sharp to touch. You click, and the voice begins, smooth and measured, but there's something wrong in it. Too even, too polished, the same rhythm as the last 10 you watched, like someone poured human sorrow into a mold and pressed play. You lean closer, noticing the way certain words repeat, the way certain pauses hit at the exact same second mark every single time. A soldier whispers, "I see you," in one video, and again 3 nights later, same inflection, same breath, though his face is blurred now, though the setting has changed. You wonder if you're remembering wrong, if the feed is looping without telling you. The upload timestamps are no comfort. They're a map of sleeplessness, each one landing between 2 o'clock and 3 a.m. Universal Time coordinated, as if someone, or something, knows exactly when you'll be most defenseless. A forensic scrape posted on a buried Reddit thread shows over 500 of these in 18 months, but the accounts tied to the thread have vanished, replaced by gray avatars and the word, deleted. You keep watching anyway. In one clip, a little boy trembles before a wedding crowd, his voice breaking as he says something you can't quite hear. You replay it, slow the audio, and there, faint but real, another voice beneath the main narration, speaking in a cadence that doesn't match the script, a whisper of numbers, coordinates, or nothing at all. The captions glitch, showing a flash of Unicode symbols before snapping back, and you feel your chest tighten. Who writes code into subtitles for stories about grief? You scroll down to comment, to ask if anyone else saw it, but the pinned comment is gone. A cached version shows it once read, "We see you too," but that version disappears before you can screenshot it. You keep scrolling, past another thumbnail, past another crying child, and you notice the voice. Again, that voice never changes, only the face. It's as though a single ghost is wearing different masks, night after night, feeding you the same story in endless disguises. You close your eyes and tell yourself it's just content, just a channel, just another late-night habit. But somewhere in the dark beyond your screen, something waits for you to press play again, and you know you will. You rewind the footage again, slower this time, eyes locked on the edges where truth usually leaks out. A soldier staggers through a wedding hall. The camera lingers on his trembling hands, but you've seen those hands before, scar across the knuckle, faint sunspot near the thumb. Later, in a different story set on another continent, a grieving millionaire lifts a child's drawing from a hospital bed, and there it is again, the same hand, the same scar, as if sorrow itself is being copy-pasted across lives. You pause the frame and compare faces, catching that tiny mole beneath the left eye, a detail no scriptwriter ever intended to repeat, yet it blooms in 3 separate tragedies that supposedly have nothing in common. It feels like a seance, actors wearing grief like second skin, moving from role to role in the dark, each performance sold as a confession. Deep in archive captures, you find old versions of these videos, titles that contradict everything you've been told. A file once called A Father's Final Secret was renamed months later to The Soldier Who Saved Her, though the footage never changed. Comments from years ago speak of different characters, different places, as though someone rewrote their identities and dared you to notice. And then there are whispers from a thread on r/unresolved mysteries, a voice claiming they once worked for a studio overseas, a place without windows where actors read pages soaked in tragedy, filmed until their eyes went hollow. They called them empathy farms, rooms humming with fluorescent lights and the sound of rehearsed heartbreak, each clip sold in bulk to faceless buyers. Ask Cha, you begin to notice how perfectly these stories fit into one another, like nesting dolls of pain, designed for you to believe, to ache, to keep watching. It no longer feels like coincidence. It feels like architecture, careful and deliberate. Deleted comments speak of something named Project Eden, a casting call no one can prove existed, yet the name lingers like a secret hymn. Some say the actors were promised anonymity, Others swear they never existed at all, that these faces were built in software and stitched into footage like ghosts. You sit in the dark, heartbeat loud in your ears, wondering if you're watching a memorial or a masquerade, if behind each tear is a living person or just another mask in the endless graveyard of digital empathy. And still the autoplay waits, another thumbnail glowing, another pair of eyes about to beg you for a story you'll never be able to forget. Ask ChatGPT. You stare at the endless feed, but you can feel it staring back, a machine built from grief and precision, humming in the dark like some invisible heart. Each trembling confession is another cog, each thumbnail another gear, and you begin to sense the rhythm hidden beneath the sorrow. At first it seems accidental, but then you notice the way your chest tightens at the exact same timestamp in every video. 2 minutes 45 seconds, 5 minutes 20, each moment calibrated to make your pulse falter, your empathy spike, as though someone mapped the anatomy of heartbreak and turned it into a blueprint. You type a comment, something soft, something human, but the reply feels wrong, too fast, too rehearsed, and when you return hours later the thread is gone, replaced by silence as if it never existed. Somewhere on a buried server, cross-referenced IP trails show that viewers of these stories are quietly funneled toward grief counseling ads and predatory microloans, their pain translated into currency without their consent. A leaked memo whispers about trauma bonding funnels, high conversion zones where suffering becomes measurable, exploitable, repeatable. The thought burns in your mind as you replay a soldier's final words and realize you've heard the same cadence, the same inhale, in a dozen other uploads that were supposedly unrelated. Metadata traces them back to a single syndicate operating from an unmarked building in Singapore, but no credits ever surface, no names, only more videos, more curated sorrow. You scroll through the comments again and catch fragments of voices that feel like ghosts. They're not real, look closer at the hands, this isn't their story to tell. Within hours those comments vanish, leaving no record except the echo in your memory. The feed keeps spinning, a conveyor of orchestrated heartbreak, and the longer you watch the more you feel it. This isn't simply entertainment, it's extraction. Every tear you feel, every pulse of empathy, every sleepless night spent staring into the glow becomes fuel for the machinery that feeds on you in silence. You whisper into the void, asking who built this, but the algorithm only answers with another thumbnail, another trembling child, another door into the engine that never stops turning. Sometimes, in the late bleed of night, the stories stop feeling like stories at all and begin to press against the edges of your room, whispering through the glow of the screen. A soldier leans toward the lens, his eyes unfocused, and breathes words that don't belong to the script. I see you, a confession meant for someone who isn't there. In another upload, a torn note appears for a single frame, names scrawled and half erased, as though someone tried to speak through static but only managed to leave a ghost of themselves behind. You watch again, slowing the playback, and feel the hair lift on your arms when the background of a scene matches a place you've seen before, though you can't place when, or how, or why it feels like memory. Threads bloom on forums and then vanish hours later, entire conversations shadow-banned after viewers claim they recognize the streets, the buildings, the faces from their own neighborhoods. One user swears they saw their childhood orphanage in the background of a wedding scene. Another claims the soldier was stationed at a base that never existed on any official map. A post surfaces from someone claiming to be a former editor, saying they received raw clips laced with timestamps from closed institutions, no origin, no credits, only a quiet instruction to cut and arrange and never ask why. You feel a chill crawl through your chest as you imagine a room where these reels are stitched together, where someone watches without ever blinking. Declassified manuals leak into the open, pages heavy with phrases like emotional narrative shaping and audience stress conditioning, programs run under the shadow of psychological operations decades ago. You hold the printouts in your mind and think of the thumbnails lined like gravestones, the uncanny timing of emotional peaks, the sudden absence of any real past behind the faces. Investigators try to map the geotags only to discover coordinates leading to abandoned bases, locked wards, orphanages long bulldozed yet still alive on film. You sit back from the screen, heartbeat uneven, and ask yourself a question that arrives too late to stop the shiver down your spine. Are these stories teaching you to feel less, Or are they teaching you to obey when the knock finally comes? You drag the timeline back again, the cursor trembling under your fingertips, the glow of the paused frames spilling across your darkened room. The wedding hall sits in eerie stillness, flowers frozen mid-sway, the soldier's face tilted as he lifts the broken picture frame. Glass catches the light and for a single heartbeat you see it, another figure standing behind him, blurred, wrong, out of place. It isn't in the script. It isn't in the credits. A shadow with shoulders too narrow, head turned slightly as if it knows you are watching. You freeze, lean in until your breath fogs the edge of the monitor, and advance one frame at a time, but the reflection vanishes, replaced by empty air and a soldier's hand trembling just slightly more than before. Online, late-night obsessives gather in shadow-banned threads, whispering over still images stolen before takedowns erase them. They draw arrows to shapes in mirrors, to fingers curling around a doorframe that no character ever touched. They circle blurred outlines in hospital windows, silhouettes that stand perfectly still while every actor moves. One screenshot shows a woman's eyes staring directly at the camera from the far corner of a funeral scene, eyes that do not match anyone in the story, eyes too sharp, too present. The comments burn with speculation until they are wiped clean by dawn, leaving only fragments in cached archives. Someone with a handle that disappears after one post claims they were an editor, just a name, no avatar, describing raw clips that arrived without credits, only timestamps from closed institutions no one speaks of publicly. Their message is brief, chilling. We were told not to ask where the footage came from, only how to cut it. When others press for details, the account is gone, replaced with a gray silhouette and a void of silence. Declassified documents surface in scattered forums, training manuals from decades-old psychological operations. Buried on page 73 is a phrase that feels like a cold hand on your spine. Emotional narrative shaping. A paragraph details how curated tragedy can soften resistance, how repeated exposure can train a subject to obey signals embedded in content. You scroll through the pages, feeling the words etch themselves into you, remembering the soldier's eyes as he whispered something beneath the narration. A single word, faint, almost lost, signal. Technical investigators overlay audio spectrums and find second layers of sound buried deep. The voices are faint but undeniable, dates, strings of numbers, clipped words spoken too softly to notice unless you're listening in the dark with headphones pressed tight. They send chills up your arms as you replay them again and again, hearing test, map, prepare whispered like instructions meant for someone else. More threads connect these anomalies to a data breach in 2021, a spill of files from a narrative AI platform reportedly used by military contractors. Among the leaked documents are render sheets for empathy avatars, simulated victims designed to provoke specific emotional spikes. When placed beside frames from the videos, the resemblance is perfect. The whispers in the community grow louder. Maybe these channels were never about stories at all, but about cataloging how far your empathy can be stretched before it breaks. You lean back from the screen, but the images follow you. Every thumbnail in the sidebar feels alive, watching. A child's wide eyes shine in the dark. A soldier's silhouette stands motionless in a doorway. A mother clutches an empty crib. The more you look, the heavier it gets, until you feel the algorithm itself pressing close, like breath on the back of your neck. And then, from nowhere, that reflection returns in your mind's eye, the unknown figure in the glass, patient, silent, waiting for you to press play again. The countdown ticks on the next video. You tell yourself you'll stop, that you've seen enough, but your hand moves anyway, drawn by something you can't name. As the next story begins, the room seems to grow colder. Somewhere beyond the glass, something shifts, something watches. And in that final moment before the narration starts, you realize the stories are no longer asking for your attention. They are asking for you.